welcome to the Free Cheese episode 519. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week we return to the list for a sequel. This is our first sequel?
Yes.
Interesting.
At least direct sequel from a game on the list already.
Yes, of course, yes. So, we're here to see how Quake II fares, not only against the list, but against its predecessor. More on that later on. I'd like to start the show by asking, Matt, can you name a better video game logo than Quake II's logo?
No.
Yeah,
especially that open and cinematic does itself really good favors.
Yeah. Mark, how about you? A better logo than Quake II?
Quake 1.
But Quake 2.
Quake 2 wouldn't exist without Quake 1's logo.
But then you
just add another spike. That's...
But how perfect?
Well, if we want to go down that route, let's talk about Quake 3.
See, I feel like Quake 3 takes it too far. Am I crazy? Also, Quake 3 changes up the logo a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It becomes
it's
more
three-dimensional.
Yeah. It looks like, ever seen a little emoji for, like, Steam? It looks more like that, almost, rather than...
Okay.
This is still not, like, raw...
I still prefer Quake 1's.
I'm on the Steam... I'm looking at my Steam icons. Did Diablo 3 rip the Quake 3 logo? They look striking. That middle spike looks strikingly similar to Diablo 3, I think.
I mean, it didn't not rip it off.
It's possible. I don't know.
Anyway, we're here to talk about Quake II this week. Developed by id Software, published by Activision, first released for the computer on December 9th, 1997. The game will be, what's math, 26 years old this year? Good night. Back of the box reads, gotta lean in close for this one, tiny text. Shortly after landing on an alien surface, you learn that hundreds of your men have been reduced to just a few. Now you must fight your way through heavily fortified military installations, lower the city's defenses, and shut down the enemy's war machine. Only then will the fate of humanity be known. A little bit different than Quake 1. I think that's the thing that stands out right away. This is a departure from the kind of gothic, Lovecraftian...
fantasy.
Yeah. This, it's the first game without Romero at id. And it definitely... It has a different vibe to it. I guess... Mm-hmm. I kind of want to start with our first impressions of it, because that was something that stood out to me right away. Did you guys feel weird jumping into this? Were you excited at the change?
So, I had a rare opportunity for a second first impression after proper configuration of the game file. The first one was very... It's like this. It feels flat. That wasn't like as excited as I was to hop in. The excitement did not continue like 10 steps in. I don't know what it was. And then you, Joe, had said about, we should patch in the original soundtrack. Then, after patching in the original soundtrack and rebooting said game, weirdly enough, everything clicked all of a sudden. It felt like I was back in Quake.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about the soundtrack making a big difference.
Sonic Mayhem.
Yeah. Mark, what about you? Did you?
I felt sluggish.
I
I
did
felt,
too. I don't.
I
Yeah.
felt, yeah, just everything just felt slow, and it wasn't a good feeling.
Yeah, I kept finding myself as I played through this hitting shift, and then I'd slow down more, and I'm like, oh, auto run's already turned on. Okay. And it like immediately after rolling credits on this, I jumped into Quake Live because I needed to have that speed fix.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different feel. But the game, yeah, it jumps into this whole sci-fi setting, and I remember a couple months back starting it for the first time for, us recording, and quickly stopped. I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. And I didn't have the music configured either at that time, so I was like, that I think to Matt's point, I think having the original music really does make a severe difference. We'll talk a lot more about music later on, but I don't know, it felt weird, it looked weird, it didn't feel like Quake. It felt like, id, and this was something that Romero was big on while at id, but a big thing there that they were pushing was selling their engines, right? Like, they would eventually make their games open source after a certain period of time had passed, so you can, that's why we have so many native ports of all of these games. Like, I remember talking last year on the Quake episode that my first like real diving in experience to Quake was transferring between the PC release and the DS port or 3DS port, because someone took the source code and did a native port to DS. There's another one for PSP. There's like basically any platform people have done these source ports for, and that was something that they were big on, is like, let's get the engine out there and license it. That's why we ended up with games like Hexen and things like that were using their engines from other games. So this, like, first jumping into it, it was like, oh man, it feels like a different studio made this game, like a different company took the Quake engine, added some tweaks to it and whatever, but like this was their next big thing. I mean, this engine wise, the big changes here, we see colored lighting was a huge thing in this. Like the fact that I did you guys both play RTX?
I did not.
I ran it through RTX, but I mostly had 99% of the time it was OpenGL as my graphics. Okay. And then when I got to a scene that I thought might look cool in RTX, which I only did, I think, 3 times, I took screenshots and switched back and kept playing.
Because the general lighting in this, like you walk into a room that has blue lights in the wall and like you glow blue, and like it sounds silly, but like this was a big deal and a big thing. So like, I don't know, those things, like, they stood out to me, but yeah, the overall general vibe of this did not necessarily grab me right away. Now, Matt, when you redid the music, you jumped in proper. Did you feel like you were in right away, just the same way you left off with Quake 1?
Yeah, pretty much. Once I configured the music and stuff, and I got excited, but I had to step away. Or I just didn't play that night. But like once I finally sat down, I played a big meaty 4 or 5 hours, just nonstop. Right back where I left off with Quake 1. I ended up enjoying this game a lot.
A lot, huh?
A lot, yes.
Mark, how about you? By the end of it, were you happy? Did it live up to the Quake name to you?
So I guess that's where I have to like try to separate myself. Where it's like, I think this is a decent shooter. There is a lot of good qualities to it. I think it plays pretty well. But the second you call it Quake is when I start to have a different view on it, because I only compare it to the first one, and they feel so different to me
Yeah.
that it's hard to look at this as a Quake game. But if you called this anything else,
Which they almost did. This was almost called
Right.
Strog. This was almost called, like, there were a couple of different working titles, but this was not meant to be Quake 2.
Yeah, like I feel like War was one of them, but like WOR was like how it was spelled or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to not compare, and when I compare is when I start to feel a little more not as into it. But I feel like objectively, I think this is a solid game overall.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm conflicted about this in the end. Like, you know, listeners can check out our reviews written and numbers and everything over at thefreecheese.com. And my scores are high across the board. I feel great about this game in the end, like playing it through, seeing it, puzzle solving, and we'll dive all into that as we continue the episode. But it's definitely just, it's not the same feeling. It's different. To me, it almost feels like a Doom sequel set in a Quake 3D engine kind of thing. Like, but it feels like more of, you're not necessarily fighting demons, you're fighting aliens, but like the idea of that, it feels more in line there. Speaking of the story, not that the other games did not have a story, because they did. Like the last game, Quake, had a story, and it had, in between each chapter, you had these kind of little interstitial recaps, or so to speak, these little like chapter things written out.
Yeah.
Doom, of course, had its general story, but this one puts it kind of front and center. I mean, there are cut scenes, animated, pre-rendered. You watch them, you love them, cutscenes. Which there's a classic John Carmack quote I'd like to read. Are either of you familiar with the quote I'm about to read?
I don't think so.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
A story in a game is like a story in a porn movie. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important. And it seemed so weird knowing that idea, where then like stories take such front and center focus in this one. But then again, you do spend a lot of time in the game, I feel, puzzle solving more than anything else. Like, you're shooting, but I feel like a lot of time is spent finding the right key to the right spot and going through, like, there's a lot of doors to unlock. There's a lot of moving through these levels. The levels are huge and all like stitched together in a way that you need to like traverse through areas that have loading in between them. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't, again, the high scores across the board for me here. But I guess it sounds really, again, it's going to come off as like negative the way I'm saying it, but it's a small gripe. But I would say the level design, just like in Quake 1, each zone felt distinct. Now, the levels in the zone, they were just different layouts of the same concept, but like, you could tell Zone 1 from Zone 4 and Zone 3 to Zone, vice, all across the board. This one, I could not tell you, if you show me pictures, I probably could not tell you Unit 3 from Unit 6. And then when you double that with a unit design with, like you said, stitched stages that require some backtracking, it's very hard to kind of make your way around without kind of becoming intimate with the map. It's also hard to become intimate with the map when you are constantly running and blasting, and not really so much just running around like a Liberty City, at leisure. So that's like the only thing. I know there's like small hints of maps like within the textures of the wall, but there's no proper map system for you to kind of get some like coordinates or whatever to help you out. And you kind of find yourself more so like following the enemy trail. Like once you find enemies again, you're like, all right, I'm on the right track. That again, small gripe. It's a different take on level design, which I'm glad they I guess they do a lot different here to be fair, but like, I'm glad they try to do a different take on level design. But again, like you kind of get lost a little bit in the navigation, and for me, I didn't realize the game was really doing that until like Unit 3 or 4. So like early on, I was struggling, like, why am I back here? Yes. Because I'm so used to Quake 1 being like but level 1, level 2, level 3. All right, then now that's done. That mission pack's done. We're on to mission pack 2.
Yeah, like there was never not backtracking in those games, right? It was always, even back to Doom, like go here, find the key card, come back to this spot where you were, and along the way there's going to be a wall that opens and more surprises come out. But this
but once you hit that loading screen, you're done. This
Exactly.
is not.
Yeah, you're going back and forth between loading screens, which that threw me off a lot. To your point, though, I think I'm happier that this game is not. We would not be talking about this game the way we do if they did make Quake 2, right? Like they made Quake 2. They did not make Quake 2. And it's, I think, better for that. And then, we would just kind of carry that lineage forward. Not that we're here to rank the others, but like if you think about Quake 3, totally different, fully,
multiplayer focused,
right? Like they just ripped out the entire campaign idea and went.
As opposed to this one didn't launch for multiplayer. It was patched in later,
right? Like
which
it's
wild
very...
to think. Like with Quake multiplayer,
yeah,
that's wild to think about.
So, I do like that Quake kind of reinvents itself each iteration. But yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird. That's all. That kind of pulled us right into the depths of this. But Matt, I want to know, you added this to the list for season 11. What was the impetus for it? Are you happy that it's on the list?
This was last year. I had never played Quake, and it was a game I felt like I should play. So I threw it on there as an excuse to play it, and I think obviously we all loved it, and I wanted to see more of it. I didn't know too much. This is like the next step, right, in the franchise, where I didn't know much more about the franchise. Like I played Quake Champions, I played Quake Live, but I don't know like a proper campaign, and I kind of heard the hints of it's different. So I figured, let's throw a sequel into the list. I didn't know it would be the only sequel on the list thus far, but here we are. But no, I wanted to see what was potentially different. What I thought there was something to explore there, especially with this franchise.
And from last year, I know when we recorded last year, you had not played the original Doom. Have you played it since?
Well, all right. So playing and completing, I think, are two different things here.
That's what I mean.
I still have not gone back to complete Doom.
And Mark, conversely, you've spent a little bit more time with Doom 1 and 2, right?
Yes. I forgot where I left off on 2. I can't wait. I beat 2, right? I think I beat it.
If I remember you texting me correctly, I think you had. I know you did all the.
Yes, I know. I did. I did beat it because I started Doom 64.
Oh yeah.
So that's where I'm at now.
And yeah, are there other id games or like id inspired games that you guys have played since recording the Quake episode? Is there like a mod or anything? I mean, this is not Quake specific, but I can tell you that when we do our end of the year recording episodes, wrapping up the year, I will definitely be spending some time talking about myhouse.wad.
I did.
That's been fun.
I watched My House. I didn't play that one.
That was fun. That was a good surprise. Ben sent it to me and sent it to me without setting up like
perfect. Yeah.
I played it the right way, which was great.
No, I guess I probably played a little bit of the first. I guess I don't know the nomenclature.
Yeah.
Was it expansion to Quake 1? The first one?
Pack?
Yeah. I played. I never completed it, but I played a couple levels of it. It just, it's almost like that Doom Eternal DLC that I never completed just because, like, all right, well, Doom Eternal ended difficulty at a 9 out of 10, so in the DLC, we're just going to start you at 10, then, with no warm-up. That's kind of what these Quake mission packs did. But no, I really, besides that, and that was like probably right after we recorded and played it and whatever. I didn't do too much more.
I think it was about like I think by the time we were recording, I had started like I did maybe like 3 levels of that first mission pack, and then that was all I touched. So we covered a bit. This game's different, but it's still very much the same. Matt, I'll let you pick. You want to jump into weapons first or enemies?
Enemies, because I think it sets the more the sci-fi feel of it.
Yeah. So generally, off the kind of beginning, you just have these sort of guards that are around, and then as you start to like solve puzzles and move your way through, I've noticed like some of the backtracking areas, you'd come back through and the enemies wouldn't respawn. You'd still see corpses. That's another big thing in this game, engine-wise, is the death animations. So you're not only, as you're shooting enemies, will they sometimes shoot back before dying. You can also completely maim them in a way. You shoot them, they hit the ground, and you shoot again, and they just like all into little blobs and stuff. So, and if you don't do that and you just kind of let the corpse sit there for long enough, flies come around and start buzzing around the dead body. But there are areas where if you kind of come back through, you'll notice there's an enemy type called a flyer, and the flyers will just kind of like, they're usually in packs of 3, and they look like robotic geese or something that just kind of hover above, and they shoot you, and you gotta take them out. Other than that, you've got the guards that are pretty close to like the knights in Quake 1 in terms of like, even they're like kind of like triangular shape, I feel like, to their shoulders and body build feels like the knight. The enforcer's a little bit bigger and has kind of a, I don't know, like a...
He had like a Gatling gun kind of thing.
Yeah, he's got the chain gun
then,
for, yeah.
Chain gun, and then he had the grenade launcher. So he was kind of like, they kind of took that one, I forget the enemy names from Quake 1, but he took that like chainsaw grenade launcher guy and kind of like split him almost.
Yeah. And then you've got one that pops up pretty early on that I think was probably one of Matt's favorites, the Parasite, which I just kept calling the Licker because that's all it reminded me of from Resident Evil.
Yeah, difficulty is something I want to talk about, but that was like, whenever those things were on screen, it was good luck.
Yeah, dude, you were just red screen the whole time. Just not a good time. I was just jamming, like, especially if I knew I was going into an area where one of them was going to be, like, because you kind of have a couple areas. Well, and actually, same with Matt. I did not, when I started this, I didn't have the music stuff patched in. I did that, and then it killed my save, so I had to restart the game. So a couple of the areas I knew while restarting it had these guys, like, right before I passed through the door where I knew they were, F2, save, like, let me get ready to just be able to load quickly and get back to where I was just in case. I guess we'll talk a bit more about, so the Berserker is another one you kind of find pretty heavily early on. It's got like he yells trespasser when he sees you. He has a claw and a hammer attack that send you flying if you're too close to him. So you really you can kind of just keep your distance and pick him off. Just hope that he doesn't start firing off grenades. But yeah, that one's kind of doable. I feel like you see him a lot. The one you don't see much of, but it was a pain the few times you did, is the Barracuda shark. Did you encounter any of those?
Yeah. Thankfully I wasn't really in water when I did, but they ate bullets.
Yeah, that was another, like, oh gosh moment, like finding the parasites for the first time. Like, you see them and you're like, oh, okay, I'll just shoot that. No, I won't. I'll just get destroyed in this water. They're
deceptively small, where you're like, super shotgun. You're going to be blown to bits. Not even death animation, blown to bits. It was like 3 super shotgun.
No, it was heavy. And, like, the problem I had, too, it was a real pain in the butt there, is, I don't know why, but it must have just been, like, my computer sympathizing or empathizing with you, Matt, because I remember we were on a Discord call, and you were like, well, I just jumped into water and the game crashed. And then I was playing, and we were playing with totally different graphic settings, totally different. So it wasn't a configuration, but whatever I did, I got to the first section where you meet the barracuda sharks, jumped in the water, game crashed. I was like, oh crap. And I hadn't saved it since like the beginning of that area. So I had to restart, go all the way back through. And then I got to that again. I jumped in just like wincing, like expecting the game to crash again. And I didn't. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can jump around. I hadn't seen them in the first like go around. So I jump in and then they come at me and I'm like, what has happened? Nightmare.
Yeah, no, after that weird crash, I never had an issue.
No, I had that one and that was it. Did you mark any crashes, weird stuff?
Surprisingly, no.
Good. I guess then we get into kind of the bosses or mini boss territory, or just some of the larger enemies. Like,
I think the important thing here, and you're kind of saying it along the way, but like there is definitely a theme of like these are like mutants morphed into like cyborgs. They're like everyone has like a machine type design, and that like of course like the level aesthetics lend to the sci-fi stuff, but like I think the enemy design more than anything is like we're not in medieval Lovecraftian anymore. This is sci-fi territory. These are aliens.
Like this
kind of
fully like the what are they called?
Cenobites?
Cenobites. Yes. It fully felt like that.
Hey, look, last year watching all those movies finally paid off for something.
Yeah.
No, funny enough, the Quake 4 logo reminds me of a Hellraiser. I think like Hellraiser 4 or something.
Yeah, dude. Like there's definitely some influence or inspiration or love kind of crossing over somewhere. But yeah, that's a really good point. Like they're all fused with technology in some sort of way. The Strogg, as they are known, this whole alien race.
Everything has more of like, it does have a sci-fi setting, but it feels more industrial inspired.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm more in a factory more than half the time than I am like a spaceship.
It was so difficult to find art for this episode because I was like, just something science-y or weird. I don't know, whatever.
Like it's still a lot of brown.
Yeah, it still is, but it's a different
which
type of,
I don't identify with
brown.
with sci-fi usually.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's not true. I guess Star Wars kind of has its share of it.
Yeah, Tatooine's just sand.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like your traditional like this isn't like aliens like sci-fi. No. This is definitely like I think Mark industrial is a good adjective for that.
Which isn't bad. It's just
no, it's not. It's
just
it's not. It's not what your traditional sci-fi is.
The back of the box like quote that I read earlier, that whole paragraph, like they have words in all caps and much larger typeface, and like alien is the first of those words that is capitalized and it's bigger than any of the other words that are bigger on the back of it. So they very much wanted you to know from the start like this is not Quake 1, but at the same time when I think of alien or what an alien would look like in a game, I would not have thought any of this. These are I mean, they're not, I wouldn't go as far to call them human, but they're more humanoid than they are.
They remind me of
especially in 97, our image of aliens was much different.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably past the point, but like they remind me of mutants from Fallout.
Yeah, that's a good.
Sure, yeah. Definitely feels more like post-apocalyptic. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah.
So, and we talked a little bit before about it. Before we jump to weapons, I guess like, because now we're to the point like there's a couple enemies still left, or there's a lot we haven't like talked about in detail. So feel free to call out favorites or anything you've got. But like, in terms of encountering these, the main mission structure in this is get to an area, find a locked door or a locked thing. Oh, I need to unlock it with this key. Go find that key. This one, more than the last one or any other Doom game or anything, really forces you to like interact with computer stations or some sort of thing like that. And for the game's purpose, there's no like interact button. You're just kind of pushing the character into what looks or feels like a keyboard that slides the keyboard into the computer, and that usually triggers some sort of door unlock or thing to lift and provide you with a key or something along those lines. The thing that stood out to me about this whole like find key, go to place, go back to place, put key in, get new key, go to other, is because you're kind of so frequently back and forth. I was finding a ton of secrets, more than I did in Quake, more than I ever did in Doom. Like I felt like this game more than ever, I was just like getting a little like white text that's like, you found a secret area, or all that stuff. Like, did you feel that way?
I don't know. It's been a year since I played Quake, but like I feel like I did better in Quake 1. Maybe I was more curious in that game, and this one again, everything's so samey, but because it's so samey, you're kind of like having to explore the area to find your next step. It almost forces you to explore in the wrong direction, which leads to a secret.
Yeah.
I did find a couple secret levels, so I didn't do bad. I found one super early on. It gives me like a shotgun before like area 2, super shotgun before area 2. And then I like super late. I might have been like unit 9, like super late. I found like a satellite level.
Oh, cool.
That was the other 2 like secret levels. Again, I found a fair share of areas with armor and stuff. But no, I feel like I didn't do as well, but I may have done better because of the nature of the way this game plays.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. Let's dive into weapons a little bit, unless there's any other enemies you guys want to bring up. Outside of, we'll talk like final boss and stuff when we get a little bit closer to the end, but...
Nah, you have your fair share of annoying things.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's, I guess it was a mini boss. I'm not sure if it was a big boss, but it was just basically a tank with a head. And it was just like...
Oh, is that the Gladiator?
I think
maybe
is the name of it, yeah.
It's definitely got like the tank wheels and has missiles for one arm and whatever.
Does he have, like the claw in the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, there's that, but yeah, but I'm talking about like that huge, like a huge one, like big boy, just rolling around.
This one.
That you could just kind of pick off from above. But
yeah,
he looked more militarized than anything. But that made me realize just now that a lot of these enemies remind me more so of Wolfenstein.
Yes, yeah.
Because I think a lot of this game, I believe it or not, was World War II inspired, especially with the story.
That makes sense.
So kind of seeing a lot of this now is now starting to it clicks a little more now when thinking about it.
And then like I even like the little improvement on the generic guards. I feel like usually like in Quake 1, like the grunt guards were the grunt guards all throughout, but like in this one, you see the model, but it's deceptive because now they got machine guns or now they got shotguns. Surprise! Like they become a challenge, and later levels like flood areas with them. I think it's kind of like to show off Quake 2's character count on a screen at one time. But no, when they flood and you're not aware or ready for it, they can pack a punch. And that's not, that's for a grunt enemy to kind of show improvement is it's kind of cool.
So you start the game right from the beginning with a standard issue blaster. Which is kind of just a stun gun. Like it takes many shots to drop an enemy. I also found accuracy felt really weird. Was that just a configuration thing on my end, or did you feel like you always had to shoot a little bit to the left or something?
Oh, I don't know about I don't know in that regard.
Like
I feel like I wasn't hitting shots with it,
was
but
like, dead center. And I feel like if the bullet would have reached its full trajectory, yeah, it probably would have ended up there. But I felt like it was always shooting like at a
I
I
think
don't think
it
I was
depends
getting
on
that.
the.
I mean, I definitely, again, my accuracy with that weapon is not very good, thankfully.
But
Wait,
also, you don't need it for too long because you do get the shotgun.
No, so you turn go
the-
go straight, turn the corner, shotgun. All right, we're back home.
Sorry, I zoned out. We were talking about the starter gun.
Yeah, the little blaster.
Ooh, not my favorite. That's a
No.
To
Yeah,
be fair,
like-
though, Mark, you did say last year that the axe was completely useless, so I feel like this was a step up.
I don't know. I think it made me appreciate the axe now. But yeah.
I killed a couple enemies with it before I turned the corner and found a shotgun.
Well, I mean, and I think a lot of these starter weapons, I think that's their point, is I think they're just kind of meant to be not the greatest feeling, probably. Just to uplift all the future guns and appreciate them more, maybe.
Well, I think that, and I think like they force you to make sure that you don't run out of ammo for the other things, that you are seeking out those secrets, you are finding the ways to keep those other things equipped because you don't want to have to rely on the blaster.
Yeah, I it's just the speed of it was just not my thing.
We get a shotgun, which the shotgun feels fine. Matt, I don't know if I got the same secret that you did that unlocked the super shotgun, but I had the super shotgun pretty quickly as well, which
Yeah, I think we
at
have the
that
same
point,
secret.
the shotgun is just not relevant anymore.
Right.
And
And then
still-
you get the...
it's closer to the Doom super shotgun, but it's still nothing is gonna be like that Doom super shotgun. It's just
Sure.
Nah.
it's good. It's still good. I actually quite liked the machine gun in this.
Yes. And actually, the regular machine gun and not the rail gun.
No,
Or, sorry, the chain gun.
the
The chain gun.
Yeah, no, I didn't like the chain gun. Chain gun has too much of a like
Fire up
slowdown
speed.
that I got
Or if-
good at like anticipating when I should pull, like you kind of know when
Interesting.
enemies are going to drop. But yeah, I really found myself, if not using the super shotgun, gravitating towards the standard machine gun.
Yeah,
Huh.
no. A machine gun was like almost like a default after super shotgun ammo
Yeah.
was depleting or close to depleting.
I felt different. I think I liked the chain gun more. Just the machine gun felt like I always had to overcorrect the recoil.
It definitely had that. Yeah. But I felt like it was powerful in a way. Like I could feel myself holding that like with the mouse. I don't know why I felt that, but something about it.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I can see that.
The grenade launcher, I think, like most grenade launchers,
Grenade
is
launcher.
terrible, and I hate it. And I don't know why we have grenade launchers in video games. They're not fun.
Depending on the
for a
game.
bank shot, especially that
yeah.
enemy around the corner, some banking.
I think like a Perfect Dark or GoldenEye, where you can like kind of lob and like on impact the grenade blows up. I think the thing I don't like about id's version of grenade launchers is that the grenades bounce. I kind of hate.
Oh, and then you forget
Sure.
that it didn't explode yet, and you walk forward, then you die to your own grenade. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
That I hate, but even just like the like, because I feel like if I have the gun and I'm shooting at something, I'm in control of it dying. The grenade launcher, once I shoot that shot, I'm waiting for it to.
Well, if
hopefully
you're
die.
accurate,
True.
it hits on it does hit on enemy impact.
I feel like I'm never good at it at all. So that's it's a me problem, for sure.
I mean, that type of gun's always a beast of its own. And I think my favorite might be an Unreal Tournament.
I need to play more UT. It comes up obviously every time we talk about this stuff, but I always just
It's hard
never-
not to.
No, yeah, but I've
Like-
not gone back to it.
No, I always found myself using a rocket launcher. I would use the grenade launcher if it was an easy bank shotty area or I was out of missiles. That's when I was grenade
Right.
launcher.
How did you feel about rocket launcher in this one?
Rocket launcher, like, it works, but again, if you're panicking and it's the one that's out and there's someone in your face, you're going to die just as easily as the enemy's going to die. It kind of feels like the grenade launcher, at least like you have a valid excuse for like, oh, I died because I forgot. I walked forward. I forgot to throw one, didn't explode. The missile launcher, you just straight up just kill yourself. Like, God damn it, I suck.
It's yeah. I did like the animation of the rockets reloading this time around.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a nice touch.
I think my favorite weapon was the hyper blaster. When I had the cells,
Agreed.
that thing melted.
Yeah. The hyper blaster, for those who've not played, it's like a machine gun, I guess, is the closest
It's
thing.
probably this version of a nail gun.
It is, yeah. As much as
Or a super nail gun, I would even say.
I did
It's the
miss
sci-fi version of a super nail gun.
It is. Yeah, you're right. I think I still like the super nail gun better. But yeah, this is definitely probably the best gun. But also, this is where we get the rail gun.
They give you way too much ammo for that rail gun.
Yeah.
And that's a small gripe in this game for me. Another small one.
That's an interesting take.
The game is easy.
Once you get the railgun, it does change.
I play on hard and hardly died.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, fair, but I just never thought ammunition, too much of it was.
No, like
you know what I mean?
What's that? What's the gun for Quake 1? That's like the overpowered like lightning gun thing. Like I felt like I shot that 3 times and it was depleted, and I was back to like a machine gun, having to carefully maneuver levels. In this, like 99 railgun bullets, you're getting through like 3 units before you even need to kind of restock, and it's so good. Like, shoot so far, hit so hard, and you have 99 of those bullets at max capacity.
Yeah.
Feels good.
I mean, it's a great weapon to use. Because it does make the game easy.
Well, it's also the best weapon to use, which they brought back from Doom.
Yes.
You get the BFG in this, although this time it's the BFG 10K. The cool thing about the BFG in this one is the way you fire the bullet, and it is just an orb that then shoots out these beams that immediately point to the targets. Like you can see it happening in real time, which is neat. It
auto aim activated.
Yeah, very much.
I like how it was used as equipment too.
Yeah. You want to talk about that one a bit? You get like your different power-ups, equipment, things like that.
Yeah. What would usually be? Was it E? Your E key was the equipment use. Yeah, like things were stored. So in Quake 1, you pick up your radioactive suit. You have radioactive suit all of a sudden. Same thing with like quad damage, other stuff like that. But in this game, you get like inventory systems. That way you can store that stuff. So like quad damage, you get 1 to store, and then you can use that at any point if you activate it. BFG was the same way, where like it was part of your inventory. You got a couple stores of it. I don't know the number. Was it 3?
3, I think. Yeah.
Or am I thinking of Doom?
You know what? Now I'm thinking about it. I remember firing at 1. Hold on. Maybe it was. I don't know. I think 3.
Okay, so like you get stores of this weapon to use. That's what the railgun should have been. It should be like 10 bullets. Whatever. Anyway. But yeah, no, you use it as an inventory item, so that way, you can kind of use it on demand. You're not stuck like picking up the BFG and then having to use it right away for a time limit. Which, again, I kind of like I didn't really use my inventory much. Maybe it comes more into play in Nightmare difficulty, but I was not using it that much. I think I used it by accident more because I was trying to interact with the keyboards before learning I could just push them in.
I think that's the one thing. So like I liked it, but I kept forgetting that I had it. Like I picked up a quad damage and then forgot that I had it at all. And like I think I made it like 2 or 3 levels, and then I looked down. I was like, oh, I still have shoot. Like that kind of stuff would happen. Another thing too, like with them kind of hot mapping all these things to keys, right? Like where your quad damage was bound to Q and whatever else. Why did we not have map bound to M? Like I know Matt mentioned it earlier, like there's no map and you do get kind of turned around, but like I hit a point where I was like trying to figure out where I was so lost, and I'm like M. Like I kept instinctively hitting that, and it just never
It's tab for me.
But still, I mean, I nothing to find in this one, which was kind of like aggravating. I'm used to like Doom when you had like you at least could figure out like, oh, there's an empty-ish area I haven't figured out. You couldn't always necessarily see secrets or anything, but like there's levels in Doom that I would play simply by leaving the map up on the screen and running around in that. Like it.
Yeah.
It's a different feel. Let's talk about the sound of this game. Obviously, if you're playing in the modern era, especially like if you're playing this, you need to be playing with the original soundtrack.
Yeah.
But how do we think the soundtrack stacks against the first game?
So I was conflicted because your instincts to say the Nine Inch Nails atmospheric soundtrack, but I actually think I like this one better. And I'm so dumb that I needed that insurance of thinking. I swapped sound files. So I took the OGG tracks from Quake II and put them into Quake 1 as best as I could, because I know there's more tracks and tracks. So I put the Quake 2 tracks into Quake 1, and I put the Quake 1 Trent Reznor Nine Inch Nails tracks into Quake 2, and I played the first couple stages of each. And I can confirm, I think I like the Cyber Mayhem OST better. I think it's just something with the metal. It's like Doom and Mick Gordon all over again, where it's just like, that metal's got you like, all right, jazzed up, like wanting to run around and kill stuff. It's not the dump on the Nine Inch Nails thing. I go back and listen to that episode. We all loved that soundtrack, and we loved the atmosphere of it, though. But I think there's something more to metal and classic id.
Now, I actually agree. The person who bought a Nine Inch Nails hat after playing Quake. But yeah, like there's something about like the music is a motivator for me in games, and this had the energy to push you forward like it does in Doom 2016 or something, right? And I would always prefer that over just atmospheric stuff, especially for a shooter that it's just constant combat. So I feel like the faster paced music fits that more. And when I was playing Quake 1, I appreciated what was there, but I was actually listening to straight up Nine Inch Nails, like the albums that were released around up until Quake was released. So like the fact that I was listening to actual music that wasn't just ambiance versus the ambiance. So like, yeah, like that just says that I have to agree with you that I prefer like actual music that you can bang your head to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot you were doing the actually listening to Nine Inch Nails rather than
like try that. Like that's
this game also had a bit of platforming again, which I know we ran into last time. Any difficulty with that, or I felt like there were a couple spots where I was like, "What? Let me quick save." Like I was definitely abusing that as much as I could.
Yeah, there was definitely spots where it's like, right, I have auto sprint on. I should probably hold the shift key for some of these jumps.
It felt easier to crouch into some areas.
Yeah,
that's because there was a crouch button.
Right. See, for some reason, I'm like retroactive. I'm like thinking that I could crouch in the first one.
Playing those stages fresh today, it's giving me some remembrance of like, right, there was no crouch button in Quake 1.
Right. Quake 1 is just Doom 3D.
Yeah.
Kinda.
You can look up and down in, right?
Yeah.
With 5 frames of animation death. Yeah. You don't appreciate the Quake 2 engine until you go back and play a little Quake 1. Quake 1, again, fantastic game. Quake 2 does look better. Animation-wise, I would say.
The engine's more... Yeah, art direction's a different thing, but in terms of...
Sure.
Power, horsepower.
Yeah. Like, oddly enough, with the platforming in this one, because you could crouch and everything, gave me more Half-Life vibes.
Well, this was the Half-Life engine, wasn't it?
Was it?
I'm pretty sure that this was the one they ended up using in that.
Maybe that's why a lot of it like kind of felt familiar when it just came like the way I was moving. Like I didn't take a second to like have like a self-aware moment. Like, oh yeah, this does feel like or whatever. Like I didn't stop to think about it at the time. It's still like after the fact now where it's like, yeah, it did. The way the platforming felt kind of intuitive for me, probably because of my background in Half-Life.
It's technically still called Gold Source, but it is a heavily modified Quake engine for Half-Life.
Quake 1 or 2?
That's
Can you
actually good. The engine also reuses code from other games in the Quake series, including Quake World and Quake 2.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I knew there was some lineage. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I guess in this quick reading, I'm sure you can find the answer easily, but in the quick reading, I don't see the definitive Quake 1 or 2 engine.
But yeah, like approaching platforms didn't feel as Quake 1 made me feel like I was doing a lot of tightrope walking.
Yeah.
In a sense, I didn't feel that as much this time around.
As we kind of round the corner here, I want to hear, what are your kind of final overall thoughts on the game? Anything we didn't talk about yet?
For a generic, pretty much like final boss fight as this offered, at least it was an obtainable final boss fight without a guide and a lot of dying.
Yeah, the forced telefrag of the first one was... None of us got that on our own, right? We all had to look that up?
No, I needed I needed a guide. On top, again, retreading ground, but like the actual puzzle mechanic killed you, but it was always the walk if you weren't safe scumming. It was the walk back. It was crazy hard. On normal.
Yes, that was brutal. This was like, I didn't even realize it was the final boss when I was at the final boss. Like the room or two leading up, like you get to that final area, and I didn't even feel like I'd gotten to a final area. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of there, and then you're in a room, and then I'm like fighting something, and then I'm like, all right, well that thing, okay, find an escape pod. Oh, like I didn't think.
I knew I didn't really use a guide. I more so was looking at unit counts to see how much longer I had, because this was a little bit more weighty in terms of length than Quake 1. I just wanted to make sure I got to complete it in time. But I knew I was on unit 10 just by count. But to be fair, you have to use, back to the level navigation, you have to use F1 a lot to kind of see, like, what do I need next? F1 brings up this little objective. It gives you the other stats like secrets and enemy count and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it also gives you like not like your unit objective overall, like what's your end goal of the unit, and then your secondary objective, which is a little misleading because that makes it seem like it's optional, but that's like your next main objective. Like that's telling you like, hey, find the CD that you need to put into a computer. So with you having to use F1 a lot, I kind of got into the habit of like, all right, what's my first objective in his unit? And Unit 10 is very much like, go find and kill the Strogg leader or lieutenant or whatever. I was like, okay, you would have figured it out regardless.
I feel like I underutilized that F1 menu significantly because I feel like I was usually just wandering, shooting stuff, getting lost, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm backtracking through here. Everything is dead everywhere I go, and I'm not making any progress. What am I supposed to do? And then I'd remember, oh, right, F1. Only because it's been flashing on the screen the whole time telling me to press it, and I'm just now like, what is that? Oh, right.
Yeah. No, yeah. Once I kind of realized in like Unit 3 or 4, like what was happening, and I was like, oh, like the secondary is actually what I should be doing now, not an optional thing. That's when I was like, oh, all right, we're gonna rely on this a little bit more.
Mark, what's your final kind of impression, lasting thoughts on Quake II?
Probably what I said towards the beginning of the episode. I think this is a solid game. But the second you try to get me to compare it is when it starts to look less favorable. So, like, I have to view this as, like, its own thing. Like, I can't... It's hard for me to think of this as a Quake game because it's just not my definition of Quake.
Yeah, it's weird because there's more Quake games what are like this than are like the original, but I'm with you.
But I mean, like, but that, that just sounds... I mean, that's just a me thing.
No, I'm with you. I did, like, for me, the thing that I wrote in my review that I think sums up where I'm at is that I think Quake 2 effectively becomes itself despite the shadow cast from the original. Like, it is its own thing. It's just, it was hard initially to break free from those, like, expectations, which is weird.
Because, like, with id...
Yeah.
It's like, I have a Twitch shooter mentality, and it's like, this doesn't want to be that exactly.
Yeah,
like
this wants to be an adventure that you shoot in. This feels more like a Metroid game. This feels like Metroid Prime before Prime.
I see that with the backtrack and the way they pan it out in this one.
Yeah, like if you had a weird, terrible 3D map like Metroid Prime, this is actually this is just Metroid Prime. There you go. I gotta change my review.
So, like, but it's cool that there is a Quake for everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
So, that's my takeaway from it.
Matt, final word?
It's different flavor, but same kind of feeling. I said it towards the beginning, like, there's many differences in terms of aesthetic, a little bit of gameplay speed, the difficulty, the level layout, the music, but I think at the end of the day, they're on par with each other, in my opinion. It's tough. It's one of those things where it's tough to say one's better than the other. But yeah, no, again on its own, I know we've been making a lot of Quake 1 comparisons just because of the nature of, our list and the games and stuff, but like when you take Quake 2, when you take Quake, like what we were saying about Quake 1 towards the end of the podcast last year, like we were saying, like Quake felt like a breath of fresh air, but still stands on its own as a modern game very easily.
Yeah.
Echo Quake 2.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Matt, you said that it's difficult to stack these up against one another, but of course, here, thefreecheese.com, that's exactly what we do. Thefreecheese.com/the-list.
I got clever. Sorry. So I got clever in my review score, so, because Quake 1's on the old review score, Quake 2's on the new one, so you're not going to be able to tell.
Interesting. How do we rank Quake 2 against?
I feel like I'm the highest. I'm right next to Quake. I think if gun to my head, I think I put it below just because Quake is Quake and this predecessor is slightly different and it might give it a small negative connotation. And the level design, small little complaint, but you did get lost a little bit.
That's the biggest thing holding this game back from being great to me is like, I just felt like I was just wandering aimlessly. And again, that's my own fault for not reading the stupid F1 menu, but at the same time, I feel like the level didn't tell me where to go. The objectives told me where to go. And like Quake, I don't want to compare this to Quake 1 wholly when I'm doing this, but like other games, including Quake 1 by chance, you're kind of led through the game by the game itself. Where this, I don't know. It just, I just kept getting lost and wandering. What do I do next? And where do I go? And did I get all the right things? And I don't know.
Again, I share a similar feeling. If you did use F1 a little bit more, it would say like where get the thing from the area And if you would, usually the door had a name above it. So like if you had to go to the storage room, you could find the storage room. And even if it didn't have a sign, the F1 menu would tell you what room you were in. It would be the storage room.
Yeah,
To be fair to the F1 menu.
No, you're not wrong at all. You are totally right. But I just didn't.
Again, not a map, no coordinates. You're kind of left with this vague F1 menu, but it did supply some information.
And this is not in defense of myself or the way I played it, but I will say that playing it the way I did, I kept having to jump between different graphics rendering options. Because like one of them was so dark and another one was super bright, but it felt like it was weird and whatever.
Like washed out.
But in doing so, I kept not having a HUD. So often the F1 thing was just this teeny tiny little box in the bottom middle of the screen that was cut off for the most part. So I just see this weird like flashing thing clipping that almost seemed like the character's thumb or something popping up into frame.
I wonder if you should just ran RTX, but not RTX, just the OpenGL engine, because I feel like there was enough quality of life improvements within that launcher itself. Maybe. I didn't think of it. I should have maybe told you to try that.
Yeah. I got it to work. It was good, but that I think it's more on me than the game, but I still, it just wasn't as fluid or natural. I don't think I'm as high as Quake on this list. I'm somewhere in the Sin and Punishment Res Infinite Downwell WWF No Mercy range. Still somewhere roughly around the top 10, but I don't know if I'm cracking it or climbing too high into it.
Mark?
So I have two spots, and they are vastly different from each other. I have my personal, and then I have a compromising one.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I'll have to go with the compromising one, but I'll just say what my other one is just for fun. I had this pretty low. This was right above Perfect Dark for me.
Whoa.
It's just not. I can respect this as a game, but it's just not for me.
So you got it down 47, 48.
Now, my compromising one is super high. Right below Portal 2. New number 7.
Yeah. So that puts it above Sonic Frontiers. Yeah, because I definitely like Eco over this. I think that's an easy.
Like, I think it's a good sequel, but I think Portal 2 did a better job at doing what a sequel should do. In my opinion.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Portal's more of a concept, our adventure, but okay.
But if you take that concept
and
expand make it a sequel, I think, to Mark's point, like Portal 2 does that really well.
No, I agree with that. It's not just me being cherry picky.
No.
I just mean in terms of like evolution and consistency.
Yeah, I like this better in Sonic Frontiers. We talked a lot about the engine. The engine for Sonic Frontiers can't even get pop-in textures right for a game that you got to go fast. So on the engine talk,
I do like this more than Portal 2, but I don't like it more than Eco. Like, I think Eco's my line. Mark, are you 100%? I like your argument for Portal 2. I'm good with it.
I'm fine putting it above Eco.
No. I don't think it's above Eco. And to your point of Portal 2, I think Portal 2 is stronger in the sense of it being a sequel. Matt, can you live in a world where it sits just above Sonic and below Portal?
As long as it's above Sonic. I like Frontiers, but
that's an on-brand answer.
Come on, I got to stick with my bit with a little bit here.
All right, then we've got Quake II, our new number 7.
Hey, top 10.
It's been a bit. What was the last time? I guess Street Fighter was the last
2 Quakes in the top 10.
Street Fighter,
Yeah.
Which was only like a few weeks ago.
Who will be next?
Just going to slowly put all the id games in the top 10.
I guess stay tuned for season 12.
Well, I was going to take that as my joke. Stay tuned for season 12. This time next year we play Quake 4.
Look, man, if they're going to keep making Quake cons, we're going to keep putting id games out to line up with.
Well, no, they're going to make Quake cons and not talk about Quake. We're going to make sure Quake's brought up.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, we're also going to pull a little bit from the past again next week as we revive some other lost segments from season 10. We'll come back for episode 520, hang out for just a fun, light, non-game, non-list specific episode as we close out the month of August. Until then, congratulations, Quake. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next week. Bye.